YouTube. Thanks for stopping by, Chris. And all right. Got a few people jumping on with us. Glad everybody made it back. As always, questions, comments, be sure to throw them up there. We'll sure try to get to them. If I don't have the answer, sometimes some of our other viewers do. That's why it's a live chat. We're all on here hanging out, talking about old cars, trucks, memorabilia, and fun things like that. So hope everybody had a good week. Glad everybody made it back. Rick from Colorado's on. Williams on from Pennsylvania. Glad you guys made it on YouTube. Ralph's on with us on Facebook. Our good friend from Glenn, one of our regulars, is on from Minnesota. So we do have comments working on both formats at this point. So sometimes they don't always cooperate. Lee from New York's on. Lee, I got your message. I just haven't had time to get back with you yet. So glad you made it tonight. Rick from North Carolina is on Facebook. Looks like we got a great group jumping on again tonight. Joe's on with us on Facebook. Glad you made it, Joe. But it surprises me you guys keep coming back every week, but you do. Jess and Rico are on with us. Glad you guys made it. Oh, Mike, good buddy Mike's on here, real local to us. Old Mike's Paint Hour's on with us. He lives right around here in Great Bend with us. So, and we got Joe from Florida jumping on Facebook as well. So glad everybody made it back. Hope everybody had a good week. Lots of exciting things going on. Randy from Ohio's on YouTube. So, as always, I'll definitely try to keep up with the comments. Facebook appears to be back to normal tonight. The comments are over on the left-hand side of the screen, and it's giving me an entire column to work with as opposed to last week where it cut me down to about half a column and things got scrolling pretty quickly. So, hopefully that is working as normal and make it a little easier for me to keep up with comments. Sometimes I do miss a few. I apologize. If I do miss your comment from things scrolling too quick, it wasn't intentional. Old School's gone with us on YouTube. Dwight from Oklahoma, and Scott's on with us as well. Another one of our local Kansas guys. So, anyway, like I said, I try to keep up with the comments as best I can. So, throw them up there. I'll get to them. Steve from Vermont's on. And I'll keep up on those, and we will start getting into tonight's chat. Ted from Alaska is on with us. I don't know that we've ever had anybody from Alaska on, so glad you made it, Ted. Well, I said they never commented from Alaska. We may have had them, and they never commented. So, Old School went to a junkyard yesterday. It's been home since the 30s, and he scored some oil cans, so that's cool. Always good weekend when you go out and find some cool stuff. Wichita's on. Some more local guys not too far away from us. Glad Matt from Wichita made it. But anyway, what's going on in the world of old cars this week? Some things coming up around here. The Lawrence swap meet is next weekend. Going to try to make it up to Lawrence for that, so maybe we'll see catch a few of you guys there. As always, if you see me, be sure to stop and say hi if you see me around there. Gary, any 57 to 60 Dodge trucks? I've got one 59 half ton, and I've got a cab and a front clip off of a big ton and a half. That's all I've got in that era of Dodge trucks right now. Michigan's on with us. Michael from Michigan. That's right. Scott's ready for the swap meet too in Lawrence. So planning on trying to make that as long as nothing changes between now and then. Obviously that was one that they pulled the plug on last year. So looking forward to getting back to that one this year and checking out what's going on there. If you're on YouTube, you may have noticed I did not get a video up Friday night, and the other videos I posted last week were not the best. I apparently have some download issues. I go up to Facebook on my phone, and then I pull them back down, store them on my PC so I've got copies of everything, and then go to YouTube. The downloads service that I've been using, apparently I can't get it to download in HD for some reason. I had Friday night's video already, and I fought it, trying to get it to come down in HD, and it was just getting a very low quality, poor download. So I am still working on that. I will have that video up as soon as I can, plus other cool stuff from this week. 66 Chevy truck cabs, Dylan, depends on which one you're talking about. I don't have anything perfect if we're talking about pickup. 79 to 87 Dodge trucks. I don't have much in those at all. I've got an 86 half ton, and I've got a cab and a front clip off of a 78. And that's about all I've got in that era of Dodge. Billy from Kentucky's on with us. Old School, how many vehicles do I sell per week? Usually I don't sell the whole vehicle every week. I usually buy vehicles every week, but typically I don't sell a complete vehicle every week. Move tons of parts every week, but typically don't sell an entire vehicle every week. Dan Lyons made it. Glad you made it. Chris is on vacation, but he still made it to hang out with us tonight. Well, that's good. I mean, I don't want you to have to miss some of your vacation to hang out with us, but we're glad you did. Nathan, 44 one-ton fenders and doors. I'd have to check some of the stuff I've got in. I don't think I've got any of the pickup fenders. I think I've just got the 1.5-ton fenders on those, and I may have some doors on one of these trucks that just came in. I'd have to double check that. If you want to give me a call after we get done, I can get you on my list after we get off the chat tonight. Anyway, so hopefully get the Lawrence swap meet. Hope to get my upload or my download issues fixed where I can get a good video downloaded and get it up to YouTube. But stay tuned. I will get that up somehow or another. I'll try to get something figured out. But yeah, I was not. I mean, I've seen some comments that the poor quality of the video. I watched some clips of it, yeah, and apparently that's where it's happening is when on the download, because when I pull them down, they're just not giving me a good high resolution download. So I'm going to keep working on that. Just haven't had a lot of time this weekend, so stay tuned because we'll have the Friday night video plus the regular videos this week. In stock out there with the F bodies. Clark from New Zealand's back on. Glad you made it, Clark. Rob, 68 Galaxy seats and console. Do not have anything there. In fact, don't have any full-size 68 Fords in stock at all right now. So no seats and console for that. Lance just made it from Utah. Glad you made it, Lance. Let's see. Losing my place here. What else is going on? Another decent-sized auction this week. GAA, they have a collector auto auction. They do 2 or 3 a year. Never been to one of those auctions. Heard a lot of good things about them. My buddy Jim Wicks was there this weekend, and they had a real strong sale the way it looks. Texted with Jim a little bit Friday night. As of Friday night, GAA was reporting a 93% sell-through. And after looking at some of the stuff from yesterday, they probably maintained a lot because they looked like they had a pretty strong sell-through on Saturday as well. Obviously, if any of you guys have been watching any of the stuff on TV, any of the Barrett stuff, any of the Meekum stuff, it's pretty obvious that the market is white hot right now, and that continued this weekend at GAA. You can check that out at gaaclassiccars.com. And they've got the results. I've got some of it up here just to kind of flip through some of this stuff, and it's kind of everything. You look at what muscle cars are doing, what are older cars doing, what are newer cars doing, and it just seems like everything's strong. This one area there's a 48 Pontiac Woody Wagon brought $58,000. Super cool car you don't see very often. Ironhead just made it. Glad you made it tonight, Ironhead. 84 Hurst Cutlass, $27,000. Another one that did surprise me. Now, we all know that the 70s era GM cars are getting hotter and hotter and hotter all the time, especially the Impalas and Caprices. 1971 Impala convertible sold $70,000 yesterday. So, it's strong stuff everywhere, all across the board. Interior rear window trim for 66 GS, Ted. I'd have to double check and see what I had. If you want to give me a shout after we get done, I can get you on my notepad and see if I've got anything there. But, overall, it had a lot of cool stuff and a lot of neat stuff. So you can check them out and see what all they had. We can flip through a few more here and just look at some different things that did sell. And it was a little bit of everything, 31 Ford Victoria Model A, $16,000, 64 Sport Fury, $40,000. It's just everything now. And like I said, you keep wondering how long is it going to hold in there, but it keeps ticking along, and there's a lot of stuff going on, which is good. I mean, obviously sometimes you think you're afraid things are going to get too expensive and price some people out of the hobby, but that happens in anything you do. So overall, like I said, they had a 2005 Dodge Ram SRT 10, which was the pickup with a Viper motor in it. And those pickups have typically been soft. Almost down to what the value of the drivetrain was for somebody to put it into a car. And they sold one yesterday for $49,000, which is really strong money for one of those pickups from what, they've been doing over the last few years. So, like I said, a lot of cool stuff on there. and they had a really cool variety, you know, 58 300D, super cool car you don't see very often, hammered at 64,000. You know, just really a really broad spectrum, which is what's cool about going to those auctions. You never know what you're going to see, and there's going to be all kinds of different stuff. So be sure to check that out if you're interested, and see what they had. Always cool to check it out. You learn about different models, different options, things like that, how they were equipped, and give you a feel for what the market's doing. So that's why I always like to look at that stuff, and that's why I always like to talk about them on Sunday Night Live Chat, because that's why we're here. We like the old cars, and we like the old car market. So, and that's a big part of it today. Hot. I don't know how many of you guys were on hotrod.com this week. They did run an article on the 74 Z28 that I bought. So I was really excited that they took interest in that. If you didn't catch the Edsel article from the week before, they did an article on the 59 Edsel Ranger that I just pulled out of an old building off of an old farmstead. And then something else that I wasn't aware of, and something else you guys might want to think about doing when you go to hotrod.com. You go all the way down to the bottom of their page, you can put your email address in, and they send out a weekly newsletter to keep things updated on there. I got our friends Jill and Doug on in Oklahoma. Glad you guys made it. So be sure to check that out. Really good article Stephen Rupp put together, and super excited to be working with those guys. And really great that they've taken interest in what I'm doing. Great, you know, Steve's been a great guy to work with, and hopefully we'll do a lot more cool stuff in the future. So be sure to stay tuned to hotrod.com for what we've got, what's coming out on there, and be sure to check out those other articles. Old School found a video this week where somebody in Canada found an ex-Canadian Royal Canadian Mounted Police 74 Monaco. That'd be pretty cool. One of those old Dodges that was an actual police car. You know, a lot of people try to make them, but that's what it'd be cool to find a real one. Let's see. Lance, 35 Chevy. I picked up a 35 Chevy truck about a week and a half ago. Nothing on cars, but I did have a 35 Chevy truck that I did pick up about a week and a half ago. Have not done a video on it yet. I unloaded it, and it kind of got stuck over behind one of the buildings, and then got more cars moved in front of it. So I've got to get a video done on that 35 Chevy truck as well. I just have not gotten that far. But if that's what we're talking about, Lance, it is physically here right now. So well, let's see what else we got going on. Okay, Lance says understandable. So we must be talking about the same thing. SRCA drag strip. We've talked about that quite a bit on here. Okay, good, Lance. That is what Lance was thinking about. So we're on the same page there. Got to get out there and do some more video this week. Dave from Michigan made it. Glad you made it, Dave. Excuse me. That there are 2 more pours left on the track itself, and the wall is going up. The city of Great Bend actually did extend a loan to the SRCA to ensure that the wall will be completed with the track. So Turkey's on with us. Glad Turkey made it tonight. So we got Turkey and New Zealand hanging out with us tonight. So that's a pretty broad spread there. So there are 2 more pours on the track, and the wall is going up, waiting on more steel to get here to finish pouring the wall. But everything is progressing. Like I said, the city of Great Bend has extended a low interest or no interest loan actually to the SRCA to finish this project before material costs got even higher, and so that the entire project will be done probably here within the next 2 or 3 weeks. We're hoping. So Russell from East Texas just got on. Scott Andrews is back on with us again. Glad you made it tonight, Scott. Yeah. Dan says everything he's owned and sold is tripled. So, yep, that's kind of how it goes. But, anybody in anything has anything to do with construction right now knows that material costs are the roof. And that was the concern about only having enough money to do part of the wall, is how much it's going to cost to finish it down the road if we weren't able to do it all right now. And that's where the city stepped in. And the city does own the facility. So it, so it's not, they're investing in their own entity, so to speak, because the drag strip is at a city-owned expo complex. It isn't going anywhere. Nobody else controls it except them. So, but at least it's going to be completed. The brand new track, full length retaining walls on the drag strip. So really excited about that. I was going to try to go out and shoot some video today, and it was super windy here. There would have been no way to get anything that would have been watchable because you couldn't have heard anything but wind. But hopefully the next day or two, we'll get a little bit of a break and we can run out there. And we'll be bringing some more video on that to the SRCA drag strip page, both on Facebook and YouTube. Something else that I seen on an email I got this week on a note that something interesting happened this week on a special date back in 1976. It was a pretty big deal at the time. On April 21st, 1976, the last Eldorado convertible rolled off the assembly line. Obviously, anybody that remembers that time remembers how big a deal that was. It was the last big American convertible. Didn't know if there was ever going to be another convertible. Tons of hype. Big deal. Many of those cars were bought as long-term investments, put away in storage. And they were a cool car. I've always liked them. I always thought they were really cool. My dad bought one last year at my auction. 18,000 mile one that got consigned, and my dad picked that up because they are such great cars. Randy, anything for a 48 Roadmaster? I've got a 47 Roadmaster, and I've got some 47, 48 Supers. So it just depends on what you need. You can give me a shout on that. If we get done, I can get a list from you. Plus, Dad still got some 48 stuff on the shelf out in some of his buildings. So Robert says he lived in Detroit at that time and remembers it well. Yeah, it was a pretty big deal. And the same with 65 F100. No more convertibles, they said. And that's why it was such a big deal. Obviously, we know now, that a few years later, they were starting to make convertibles again by the mid-'80s. And it definitely wasn't the last one. And a lot of people spent a lot of money on those cars to put them in storage and then never did anything with them. But, and really the cars never did skyrocket in value. And here we are 45 years later, and we've actually starting to see where those cars are starting to bring some fairly decent money finally. Kevin from Houston just jumped on Facebook. Glad you made it, Kevin. But like I said, it's been a long haul, 45 years for those cars to really start bringing some money, and realistically, even just getting back to what they cost new. So that's there again, I like them. I think they're great cars. They are definitely a sign of the times, so to speak, in the 70s. We're starting to see what the Chevys are doing in value, like we just discussed with what happened at GAA, and those cars can't be too far behind. But it was just ironic. I happened to see that pop up that it was 45 years ago this week that happened, and the last one rolled off the line. And for as big of a deal as that was at that time. And they did end up, they did make quite a few of them. According to the numbers that I found, they made 14,076 Eldorado convertibles. So, but there again, like I said, people were clamoring to get them, even just to put them up because it was the last convertible, So if you want them, and there's still an awful lot of nice ones out there because I like them. I think they're great cars. I think they've got a bright future. Something else I wanted to bring up. That's right. Dan, top goes up, down, price goes up. Obviously, I'm still looking for a Trans Am. I haven't found a Trans Am I like yet. I've looked at a few, but they weren't quite the quality of car I want. Alan from Massachusetts just popped up. Glad you made it tonight, Alan. But something I started looking at, and I hadn't used it before, and maybe a lot of you guys probably have, but to me it was new, so I thought we'd bring it up and talk about it a little bit tonight. A website called Auto Tempest, where you can type in a make, a vehicle, and it searches eBay, Cars.com, TrueCar, Carvana, Hemmings, Cars and Bids, Car Soup, Cars Direct. So it's kind of a search engine to help you look for a specific vehicle across those various formats without having to go punch it into every single one of them and try to find something. Billy from Dallas-Fort Worth's on. Glad you made it tonight. So that's I've been using that a little bit. I haven't found a car yet, but it's kind of interesting to be able to check all of those different platforms at one time. So, and it's just Auto Tempest, AUTOTEMPEST. And like I said, I've used it a few times, just kind of trying it and playing with it. and hopefully I'll find something on it. But I thought it was kind of interesting. Some of you guys didn't know about it. I was probably the only one that didn't, but thought we'd sure bring it up because it might help somebody sometime. And that's what we're here. That's why we talk about old car stuff, to help learn about the hobby and what we do. Robert says his 25th anniversary Mustang convertible GT is the lowest price for the Fox body in the market right now. Yeah, but that Fox body stuff is all coming back up. So, you know, the Fox body is, you know, if you're a fan of those cars, my gut feeling is now is the time to buy them. We're already starting to see them tick up. So, you know, I don't think you're in too bad a shape there at all. Kevin said he's ready to check it out. So yeah, kind of interesting. You can put in, you know, make, model, your zip code, range to search, you know, how many miles away, things like that. So could be a handy tool for some people to use. And like I said, I thought it was cool, but I was probably the only one who didn't know about it at this point. But thought it was worth mentioning in case it may help somebody out at some point. Well, old school didn't know about it either, so I don't feel as bad. So anyway, that's kind of what's going on. That's what I found for some industry news and some interesting things happening, as well as some events. And you know, remember, if you've got events coming up or know of something in your area, don't hesitate to throw them up there. We can sure mention them because obviously we've viewers from all over the world on. We sure could have some guys from your backyard that are on with us that don't know about what you've got going on or about a certain event that you're getting ready to attend. So we can sure let everybody know about that as well. So anyway, who's ready for a magazine tonight? I know most of you typically are. So we're going to check out the March 1964 issue of Motor Trend tonight. So great. So thanks. Appreciate it, guys. Some of these guys are chiming in and say they didn't know about it either. So glad it maybe it'll help somebody out. So I was afraid I was going to say that, and everybody's like, yeah, we've used it 1,000 times. Or, you know, where have you been? So, so Alan didn't know either. So, well, glad I brought it up. Hopefully it helps somebody out and find something they're looking for without having to go to all those different sites and chase it all down them. All right. Motor Trend, March of 1964. Cover price was 50 cents. Over 500,000 circulation in 1964. I've never been to that, but I've heard of it, Robert. It says they're trying to shut down the Pigeon Forge rod run in Knoxville. I've heard of the Pigeon Forge deal, but I've never been to it. Why? I don't know why would they be trying to shut it down? I'm kind of curious as to what the issue would be there. Because like I said, I know I've heard about that event. So I know it's been a pretty decent sized event. So I'd be surprised if they're trying to shut that down. Kevin just jumped on while I was with us on Facebook. Glad you made it tonight, Kevin. So anyway, the March of 64 Motor Trend. Here's the cover. 1964 5 Buick Skylark Sport Wagon on the front. 64, I guess. It's got the wide side molding. So 64 Skylark Sport Wagon on the cover. You know, these were the ones with the cool panoramic roofs in them, the Vista Cruisers, the Buick Sport Wagons, really neat cars, and they were really cool design. That and these actually, believe it or not, because I've got some of these cars in stock right here where these windows are across the front, they actually have inside sun visors for the rear seat passenger for those windows across there. Kind of a neat little tidbit of information that there's actually an extra set of sun visors for the backseat passengers in those cars with that roof. So let's get into it. Let's start checking some stuff out. And we'll start off with the wagons. There is a good article on them, both the Vista Cruiser and the Sport Wagon. Starting off with the Olds F85 Vista Cruiser wagon. And this was a road test kind of comparison. Obviously, both these cars very similar, same body, different drivetrains, different front clips. But I think, you know, basically the cars themselves were pretty much the same thing. Scott found a late 70s Dodge short two-wheel drive. That's a good piece to pick up too. But they had action, and this is kind of funny too. They have action shots of the road tests. You know, in black and white, these small black and white photos of the road tests and action shots while they were testing these cars. And they gave us the specs on them like we do on a lot of these, which is always cool to check out, is they gave us a side-by-side comparison with all the specifications on both cars. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well. It's kind of weird. They're doing a comparisons, type road test. However, the Buick was a 225 V6, which was, I believe, was that Oddfire V6 that they had back in the day. And the Oldsmobile was a 330 V8. So obviously quite a bit of difference there. And Mike still says I need a haircut, but I just got a haircut last week, so I'm good. So you don't have me now. That's right, Kevin. Wagons are cool. Love wagons. And in fact, they've got an inside picture of that roof like we were just talking about here, where you can see those windows from the inside of the car. And they're hard to see, but they do actually have these sun visors. I think those are them right there for the rear seat passengers to block the light out, when it was bright right overhead. John's on with us. Glad you made it tonight, John. But so that we weren't really comparing apples to apples when you got a V6 powered wagon and a V8 powered wagon. But neither one of them were rocket ships. The Buick with the V6 ran a 20.4 mile. The Oldsmobile ran a 18.1 with the V8. But there again, we're talking a V6 powered car to a V8 powered car, so totally different deals. They did not have pricing in this one. It said not available. The price as tested. So I don't know if these cars, if that roof was just coming out at that point a little bit later in the year, and they didn't have all the information on it or not. But they did not give us any of that on this particular road test. But there again, it's wagons, and it's always cool to check it out. So kind of a neat article there. This next article was really cool. Moving on from the wagons, how to pick a power pack. If you're after more power, use judgment and this guide. And this was an engine article. And that's what it strictly covered, was high performance engines for the different manufacturers. You would start over here with the 426 Dodge. And then we go into some of the Chevys, the 409 Chevy, the Corvette small block, the Tri-Power 421 Pontiac down here at the bottom. And then when we flipped the page, it got into some of the Ford stuff, the 427 Ford, as well as the Corvair turbo engine. So something, that we see today, fairly common, a small engine with a turbocharger on it. But this is, they actually added that in with their performance engine article, the turbocharged Corvair setup. So I thought that was pretty neat, the way they had that laid out in there. The next one, and this was another thing I kind of noticed as I was flipping through this magazine, a lot of performance-oriented stuff in this magazine as we go through it, both road tests and ads. So, I'll see there's a lot of cool stuff coming up that I found. And like I said, I had to cut some of it out because there's so much stuff we could talk about every article in here. So I had to kind of pick and choose as usual. But I hope I picked out some cool stuff that you guys are going to like. The next article is another road test on the Valiant V8. 64 Valiant with a V8 and a 4-speed. Definitely something often. And it's got a lot of pictures of it. It actually has a breakdown of the V8 engine on the car. Something else I thought was kind of cool. It's kind of tough to see over here, but it actually has the floor shifter in it for the 4-speed. Obviously Valiant was pretty much always an economy car. That's what it was designed for. And that's, it almost is uncommon to open the hood of a Valiant and not find a leaning tower, a power slant 6. So the fact that this whole article was performance based on the Valiant, I thought made it very interesting. It did have the 273 V8 4-speed Power steering, radio, heater, vinyl top, tinted windshield, and seat belts. Base price was $23.75. Price as tested with those options, $3,012.80. For the time compared to the other cars we just looked at on ET and a quarter mile, the little Valiant did run a 1750, which by today's standards is nothing, but compared to the wagons and the other stuff we were just looking at, it right at 20 seconds, it was a lot peppier than that stuff. So let's see, a few comments popping up. 65 F100. My buddy I worked with back in '83 had a 64 Valiant with a 273 4-speed. It was a hoot to ride in. So they were probably a blast. They were a small light car with a small V8 and a 4-speed. I bet they were a blast. Ted brings up another good point. No 401 nail head in the engine article, and that is true. And in '64, it could have been a 425 nail head as well. They did not have that one pictured with the rest of them. But that is a good point to bring that up. But like I said, kind of a different art on a performance-based Valiant. And obviously we know that, kind of rolled into the Barracuda and things like that eventually. But 64, it was just the Valiant. Drew, looking for a 63 to 76 F350 dually. Nothing there. The only thing I've got close is a 79. I've got a 79 F350 dually, but nothing in 63 to 76 right now. But moving on to the next article, and like I said, I had to skip some of this stuff because there was so much cool stuff. But another road test on a Cadillac. So I thought that was pretty cool, and it actually shows action shots of the Cadillac. So even taking the Cadillac image to the performance level to try to do something with it, for this issue. And once again, of course, it's all black and white, but lots of really cool shots on this one. Lots of detail shots to show the specifics of the 64 Cadillac. And also it gives us data on that too. Kevin says video's dropping off, so I'm wondering if we're having some feed issues on Facebook again. As always, you guys can definitely jump on over to YouTube if we're having feed issues on Facebook. You can watch on YouTube and comment on Facebook, and I will still get the comments and try to keep up there. So as always, I'm hardwired directly into my modem. I'm not running anything on Wi-Fi. Just to try to avoid as much of that stuff as possible. So if we are having some feed issues on Facebook, maybe you might want to try to jump on over to YouTube and catch up there. And like I said, if you don't have a YouTube account, that's fine. Just stay on. You can stay on Facebook as well and comment on there. 65 F100 says on YouTube, everything does seem to be fine again. So that's a good sign as well that YouTube is cooperating with us. So, but back to the Cadillac road test. This was a four-door DeVille. And you remember when we talked about the Valiant and the pricing structure on the little Valiant, to where the loaded up V8 4-speed car was $3,012. The base price on the Cadillac was $5,633. Now, this obviously being a Cadillac, they had it loaded up with luxury air conditioning, vinyl top, leather seats, adjustable steering wheel, power seats, power vent windows, AM/FM radio. 1964 AM/FM radio was a pretty big deal. There weren't very many things. There weren't much out there with an AM/FM radio in '64. But on the other hand, there weren't a lot of FM stations either. So that's something else you got to keep in mind. Remote control trunk, automatic headlight dimmer, twilight sentinel, cruise control, rear defrost, and seat belts. Price as tested $75.27, 2.5 times the cost of the Valiant. So. But of course, we're talking a small, cheap car versus a premium luxury car. But the Cadillac actually was quicker in the quarter mile. It ran a 16.8 in the quarter mile. And of course, it had the big 429 V8, which, all Cadillacs back then always had a big V8. And they didn't have a lot of options as far as power plant on them because they were luxury cars. So their options were inside for comfort. But there again... And I thought this one was kind of cool too. More action shots of the Cadillac. If we can see this one here, you can see how bad that thing nosed in when they did the brake tests on it. So thought that was kind of entertaining too, to see how bad that thing was nosed in in the brake tests to see how long it took to stop that car, because that was a lot of car. Those were a heck of a lot of car back in that day to roll down the highway. But there again, we're looking back in time, so it's cool. Old school still listens to his FM radio, so. That's right. Old school says soft spring rates for a smooth ride. What was the first car with an FM radio, Ironhead asks? I'm not sure. I know it was early 60s, right in that 63, 64 era when they started becoming available. I don't know who was the first one to have it available, but I know it was right in that window. Is the earliest stuff that I've ever seen with an AM FM radio in it is right around 63 or 64. Old school says Blaupunkt produced the first FM radio for cars in 1952. So that I've heard of Blaupunkt, a German company. So that's cool information too. But there again, that's why we're on here. Somebody's got a question, somebody else has the answer. We all learned something. So 1952 was what is what the Old school says, and Blaupunkt was the company that did it. Cadillac, Old school says Cadillac first offered FM stereo in 66. So, yeah, and Dan brings up another good point as well. Cadillac cost 2.5 times as much, but it weighed 4 times as much as the Valiant, and that's not too far off. That Kevin chimed in on Facebook with the same thing. So, Mexico just jumped on with us. Glad you made it tonight, Gilberto. But there again, yeah, the soft ride was what everybody wanted in the Cadillac, so that's why they nosedived like that in the brake test. But the point I'm trying to make with that is the action shots that they got to put in the magazine. Whether it was a Valiant or a Cadillac, they had action shots, because back then you didn't have video like we have today, like we have right now, where we can sit here on Sunday night and all hang out. Tim just made it. Glad you made it, Tim. Better late than never, so no big deal there. But there again, you couldn't just click on a video and watch it, so they had all these action shots with their tests. So let's see. What else did we have? Oh, this next article I picked, I found very interesting. Engine filters, how important? And that's literally what the article is entitled, is how important are they? And I had to think for a second when I found this article. You had to think back to when did filters start being used? You got to remember, filters weren't very common until the mid-50s. And a lot of you Chevy guys will know that's how you tell if a 55 Chevy has the original 265 in it, if it didn't have an oil filter. If it has an auxiliary added oil filter, it's probably the original motor, because the first 265s did not even have a provision for an oil filter on them. So to us today, wondering whether a filter is important is almost a comical article. In 1964, cars had them by then regularly, but they'd only been using them regularly for 10 years. You got to remember, air cleaners were oil bath. They didn't have a paper element in them where you had a filter in them. You cleaned them out and dumped new oil in them. So that's there again, it was a little bit different. It kind of had to stop and think for a second about it when I saw the article. But when you go back in time and put yourself in that window, the article actually makes sense. Old school says Apple CarPlay was introduced in 1920. Yeah. That's another thing. Old school said a lot of cars in the 50s and 60s had stickers and decals on the air filter box, still trying to sell consumers. And that's right. They would have, the filter number and things like that on them. Greg says his 61 Chevy 235 does not have an oil filter. Yeah. So there again, in 64, there was still stuff regularly. You saw vehicles without filters on them. So that's, and they actually had some data in here where it talked about some of the tests that they did. They pulled some filters out of a 62 Ford police car in New Jersey. Each had been used 1,000 miles. Each one averaged 1.1 pounds of sludge and dirt in 1,000 miles. And, you got to remember, engines weren't as efficient as they are today. Oil wasn't as refined as it is today, things like that. And so, it was extremely critical. But there again, looking back in hindsight saying, why would anybody even question a filter? But when you put yourself back in that window of time, there was stuff that still didn't use it. 65 F100, his 65 Ford pickup, he still runs the original oil bath. Another good point that Old School was brought up. A lot more dirt roads back then. Not as many paved streets and highways. So that's another very good point. You know, a lot of streets people lived on still had a lot of dirt on them. May not necessarily have been all paved or concrete streets. So that's another good point to think about too. A lot more dirt in the air when you're driving on more dirt roads than what we are used to today. The next article that I picked up, and this is there again, another reason I did this was looking back in hindsight. This is the March of 1964 issue. So this was written, you know, this was all being put together into January, early February, I'm assuming back in that day. They had an article entitled Stock Car Foresight and Hindsight. Muleman goes out on a limb to predict 1964's winning stock cars and drivers. So I thought that was pretty cool, and I kind of skimmed through this, and it was very interesting, especially there again with what we know now, but they didn't know then. Burles on Facebook says, yeah, and a lot less fan shrouds as well, and that's true too. They kicked up a lot more dirt in that air in the engine compartment too. So yeah, Ironheads, that's a lot of dirt. That is a lot of dirt in those filters. So, but the stock car Foresight and Hindsight. Now, like I said, we got to remember. This was probably written end of January, early February of 1963. And so that's why I kind of skimmed it to see what they kind of thought things, where they thought things were going, what was going to happen. It says in 63, Ford pretty much dominated NASCAR. So it talked a lot about the drivers, an awful lot about Ford's success in 63. Got something stuck. And it was kind of funny too. We're talking about 1963, where Ford scored heavily in 63, and the icing on the cake was Ford's backing of the two biggest money winners in 63. Fred Lorenzen, who made $113,000 plus, and then Fireball Roberts, who made $69,000 plus. So there again, doesn't seem like much in today's world. In that time, it would have been a ton of money. A couple of really cool pictures that they had in here. David Pearson at the wheel of Cotton Owens Polara, and Fred Lorenzen's Ford Galaxy. So, you know, cars that were ready to go out and do battle on the racetrack. Some really cool pictures, you know, probably press pictures, getting ready for that year. These were, you know, brand new at the time, putting the press releases out on who was driving what car and things like that. Old School says he watched somebody mention that Ford dealers do not allow buyers to test drive the new Bronco. I've not heard anything about that, so that I'm not sure about. And you know, one of those, you know, some of that stuff could probably be, you know, depending on who it is too. So there's probably some people that they don't let, but you know, so who knows? You know, some of that stuff you can't believe everything you see on the internet either. 65 F100, he's a fan of the Galaxy, so yeah, that 64 there was about ready to go out and mix it up on the racetrack. What I thought was the most interesting thing about this article, though, Old School says new car dealers are just snobby now. Well, yeah, a lot of them aren't. I'm sure some of them probably are, but a lot of them aren't. I know around here most of them are pretty good. So, but the bulk of this article talked a lot about Ford's success in 63, but it also talked about a little bit of drag racing where Ford was not quite the hitter, but Dodge and Plymouth were. So it talked a little bit about some of that, and it talked about the competition, who Ford's going to have to deal with. Old School says Henry Ford would roll in his grave. Yeah, probably so. The challengers to Ford are headed by a trio composed of Mercury, Plymouth, and Dodge. Mercury, which closed in fast late in 63, should be closing in even faster at the big tracks this year, while Dodge and Plymouth will probably be even harder to whip in smaller arenas. The big handicap for Chevrolet and Pontiac, of course, is GM's hands-off attitude towards backing racing efforts, which we all know there was a corporate ban put in place, I think it was in 63, by GM to officially not be involved in motorsports. We all know it still happened, out the back door, over dealerships, parts counters, things like that, but nothing official happened. But there again, that makes it tough when you don't have the factory development and the factory involvement on that stuff to make those cars happen or make them do what they needed to do, and make the cars and the programs happen. So, but there again, obviously a factor which, unless corrected, seems likely to result in the most dismal year ever for GM products. As this was written, it seems possible that not a single victory will be scored in 64 on any major stock circuit by a GM-built automobile. And if one does happen to win, it'll probably be a 63 model. Now, as we're reading this, and there again, we're looking at it with hindsight 2020. And then at the end of the article, obviously it talks about the competition, but the last paragraph of the article reads, recapping, it was a Ford year in 63, and until someone proves different, 64 looks like a repeat. However, the repeat will be a hard one to pull off. Competition is definitely stronger. A new king may be hiding in the hay bales. A new king may be hiding in the hay bales. Well, as this was written, they probably had no idea that the Hemi was about ready to roll out in Daytona a couple weeks after this was written, which obviously rewrote the history books. King Richard Petty won the Daytona 500, and in fact, they swept 1, 2, and 3 with the new Hemis, and obviously pretty much blew this article out of the water for what they were thinking. But there again, that engine was developed in a very short time frame. Obviously, they had the Gen 1 Hemi to base it off of, but putting that thing together that quickly in that amount of time was a Herculean challenge. But they did it, and obviously shook some things up in the NASCAR world. That this article written, I believe it said in the article that the Daytona 500 was February 23rd of that year. So this would have been written literally a couple weeks prior to that, and then Mopar pulled in with the Hemis and kind of cleaned everybody's plate at that race. But there again, that's why it's so cool to go back and look at this stuff, almost 60 years later, and look at what really happened. Look at what they wrote, what they predicted, and then we can look back and see what really happened. So really thought that was cool. Thought that was a neat piece. Okay. Not getting anything fed on Facebook. I don't know if our feed issue is affecting our comments as well, because we haven't had a comment in several minutes on Facebook, which is definitely kind of odd. So I don't know if we've got any more feed issues there or not, or if everything's still flowing smoothly. Classic Ride Society just made it. Glad you made it. He said Pate was a big one. So Classic Ride Society, I assume you'll have some videos coming up on YouTube of the Pate swap meet here sooner rather than later. But glad you guys had a good show down there. Scott said the feed has been better on Facebook, so maybe it's clearing itself up. So that's a good sign as well. But anyway, that's kind of what I had for articles. Like I said, there was way more we could do. But there again, I tried to hit some of the really cool ones that really we can really see what happened today from what they wrote back before the to put in this magazine before it came out. Scott said Facebook was earlier. My buddy Mike says Facebook is good. So said it was glitchy earlier, but it seems to have cleared up. So that's a good sign. So let's check out some magazine ads from 1964 in Motor Trend. Alan says good too. Joe says good. Okay, good. So Facebook apparently cleared itself up and it is feeding. Old School was the first car to have AC. That I don't remember. I know it came out in 53, I think was the first year it was an option for GM cars. Buick, Olds, Cadillac. I think 53 was the first year it was available. Now, I think there was some stuff prior to that had it, but I know GM was 53 when it was it was regularly a factory option you could order on a car. Let's see, Packard, Old School says Packard. The 40 Packard was the first to offer factory dealer installed AC. Okay, so there we go. That's why we're on here, so everybody learns something and has a good time. But inside the cover of the March of 64 Motor Trend, we talked about the little Valiant, and there it is. They took the inside cover, once again, action shot, Tudor hardtop V8 of the Valiant V8 style. So thought that was pretty cool to get a good color action shot after looking at the article on them. Classic Ride Society was right into, said he thought it was Packard as well. So another cool ad. This one's black and white, but another car that I'm a big fan of. The Buick Wildcat. Should only strong, steely nerve men be permitted to drive this 64 Wildcat? Black and white ad. Pretty tough looking dude there to kind of give the Wildcat, they're again a sporty performance bad boy image. But they were good looking cars. I've always been a fan of the Wildcat. Always thought they were pretty sharp. Just unfortunately, this one was a black and white ad as opposed to color. Oh, Old School says he cheated. He Googled it when he looked it up. So that's all right, though, because we all learn something, and that's all that matters is we're all learning stuff. That's why we're here, because we like cars, and we're always learning more stuff every time we get together on Sunday night. So not a bad thing at all. Okay, where am I at here in my notes? The 1964 Ford, and this was something that was a little bit different. I've never seen an ad like this. So I thought it was pretty cool for a Ford article. Classic Ride Society says he didn't find any big 70 Pontiac parts, so it's got to head up here to find some stuff. So, but this article, I had to kind of do a double take because it said Ford on it, but it had this other weird thing on it, and I didn't quite understand what it was. 64 Fairlane sports coupe in the picture. And this, when I saw the Ford logo over here, which obviously looks like a completely factory logo, this threw me. The Cobra Tonic. Now available Cobra Tonic, Dr. Shelby's Marvelous Elixir for Fairlanes, Falcons, Fords in 10 strengths up to 343 horsepower. I thought that was great. I've never seen this ad. I've never seen, the Cobra Tonic and the Shelby Elixir, and I've never heard it applied to Fairlanes, as well as Falcons. So they were there again. It's all a performance image, and they had this catchy Cobra Tonic badge with the Fairlane in the ad to tie that all together. So it's something totally different that I haven't seen. Thought it was a great ad. Definitely stood out. Definitely wanted to show it to you guys. Let's see. Tirade Music just got a 53 Buick Special 2-door. He's new to Buicks and found my channel. Thanks for the info. It's great. Sounds great. Yeah, if you've got any questions, Tirade, just give me a call. I've got 153 Special in stock, but if you've caught some of my other videos primarily on Buicks, you'll know that's kind of where I cut my teeth. My dad dealt Buick parts for years, decades. So I cut my teeth in this business on 50s era Buicks. So not necessarily going to have all your answers, but I do have a little bit of 53 stuff in stock and might be able to help you out with some pointers as well. Next ad was so great. Never seen this shifter before. Hurst, new, a handsome dual gate console, custom designed for bench seats. 65 F100's got to jump off. That's all right. Glad you made it for a while. Thanks for stopping by tonight. Okay, Tirade, you did find some of the Buick videos, so glad you did. That's right. Kevin says it sounded like a drink. The Cobra Elixir. Classic Ride Side. Never heard of that ad either. So, but that's what's cool about it. We discover new things when we do this, and that's what makes it fun. New handsome dual gate console, custom designed for bench seats. This was an entire setup where you can mount it to your floor with its own little console cover. Hurst over here, your pattern there, and it is a true setup as a true dual gate where you can slip it over there to the other side for manual shifting. But I thought that was a great ad. I just wish a few more of these were color because the ads are so great that I wish that they had done more of them in color in this one. But I understand back in the 60s, color was a big deal. Color was expensive, and it wasn't always in the cards for some of this stuff. Chris, Chrysler offered it in Chrysler, Minnesota in 53. Dodge got it in 54, and they were trunk mounted. I think about everything back in that day was trunk mounted. Ford, Chrysler, and GM, because I've got trunk mount units for all of them from that era. So I think everything in those early to mid 50s AC units were trunk mounted units. So, but anyway, the Hurst shifter ad I thought was great. Really cool deal. I don't think I've ever seen that shifter with its own little cover and everything on it. So thought that was neat. Honda called it the Tiptronic transmission. So next ad we had, and there again, black and white, and I understand why they didn't, but it would have been such a great ad in color for the all-new, just out, not hardly anybody knew about it, Pontiac GTO. Once again, lots of action shots, shifting gears, spinning tires, going around a curve, spinning, turning the steering wheel. You can even kind of make out the flipper and the flipper hubcap in the wheel action shots. So Alan's got to jump off. That's all right, too. That's all right. Glad you made it for a while, Alan. Be sure to jump on with us again next week. Jim says, what was color in those days? And that's true. You know, I mean, color was a pretty big deal. Kevin asks, was the cover plastic? I'm assuming it probably was, but like I said, I've never seen one of those shifters in person. So if anybody else on here has one, maybe could shed a little light on that, on some of the details of that separate mounted Hurst shifter. Be sure to let us know. But, you know, there again, great action shots. Tons of action shots in this magazine. Tons of performance-based stuff in this March issue of 1964's Motor Trend. And once again, another performance-based ad, and something that a totally different type ad. I know they did use them some back in the day. Let's see. Old School was the first car to use radial tires. It said Michelin fitted radial tires to the Mark III in 74. So there again, all kinds of interesting facts and tips coming out of Old School. But there again, that's why we're here. It's cool stuff to learn just because it all ties our hobby together. And it ties our projects together and the memories and the things that we think about. That's what's cool about it, and that's why it's so much fun. Chevrolet had an ad about playing with blocks. If you like playing with blocks, try this. 1964 Impala convertible. This ad is touting the Turbo Fire 409. Actually had the entire engine disassembled and set it out, you know, showed all the pieces, even had both, you know, dual setup, showed a dual carb setup in front of the 64 Impala convertible. Obviously, the engine was front and center with the car in the background to really show off the performance image they were trying to portray with this ad. It says you can build the block to great heights, 340 horse, 400 horse, or with the ingredients shown here, and we did just look the fact that it had dual quads there, 425 horse. All three use the same block. Looks like the Rock of Gibraltar with 409 cubic inches of tunneling punched through it. So definitely some creative ad writers back in the day. Burl says that he believed the top was metal and the sides were plastic on that Hurst shifter. So maybe Burl has had or seen one of those in the past. That's true. Classic Ride Sighting. Maybe we can Google it and come up with a little better picture of it. Might give us a little more detail on it as well. So, and this is something else interesting about the 409 in this ad. It says you can tuck a 425 horse turbo 409 V8 into any 64 Chevy Biscayne, Bel Air, Impala, or Impala Super Sport, and choose low gear ratios of 256 or 220 to 1 with a 4-speed all synchro shift. With a 220 gear ratio, you can get a 411 or a 456 positive traction high performance axle. Isn't playing with blocks fun? Chevrolet division of General Motors, Detroit, Michigan. So there again, so much performance-based stuff in this ad to where the car is actually taking a back seat to the motor. We'll flip back here a few pages. Ironhead says he'll take one. I don't blame you. I think a lot of us would. Once again, more performance-based ads. This one from the Hot Dodge, the Dodge division of Chrysler. Some days you win, some days you lose, but it doesn't matter because they're all Dodges. The Ram Chargers and the Lawman, all coming off the line. Great drag racing footage. Old school. Will cars ever get chrome aluminum bumpers again? I kind of doubt it. I think we're probably in the world of plastic bumper covers at this point. I don't really see anything ever getting a chrome bumper again other than trucks. The way things are looking. So, but there again, great action shots. Cars on the line at the drag strip, big crowds. You can almost picture yourself there, which is what they want you to do. I mean, they want you to put yourself in the seat and really feel it, what's going on, and really take that image in because they want to sell you a new car. And if they can do this and get you excited about it, then the ad did its job. The Ironhead says only if they paint them. There's probably some truth to that too. If they did, they would probably be painted. Okay, back to one of our staples in the ad world. The Jc Whitney ad from March of 1964. We always try to catch these. There's so much cool stuff in them. And we'll catch a few things in them and check them out. Burl says a friend had one in his car. He remembers a crack on the side from the badge on the passenger side. So Burl has seen one and he thought the sides were plastic. So let's see. Chris says there's a yard in Utica, Nebraska that he's been checking out with a lot of old stuff in it as well, if you're up in that area. Jim says he was there, Detroit Dragway. That's cool. So, but there again, obviously, even today, almost 60 years later, it's bringing back the memories and the excitement for some of us on here. So that's cool. But in this month's Jc Whitney ad, some of the stuff they had available. Play your own favorite music in your car wherever you go with an automatic record player and changer. $79.95 plays 12 records without stopping. So, so that was pretty cool. But there again, the Jc Whitney ads always have that cool stuff in them. Joe's got to jump off. That's all right, Joe. Glad you made it for a while. Appreciate you being here. But that's why we always got to check out some of the Jc Whitney ads because of all the cool stuff they had. Now at the lowest price ever, illuminated transistorized tachometers for 6-volt or 12-volt cars, trucks, and buses, $19.95. Deluxe modern style daylight running lights that you could order. Of course, fender skirts, custom no-name valve covers. So a lot of their staples in here as well. But we always like to pick out a few cool ones to point out when we check out the Jc Whitney ad. When you're looking at Old Magazine, you can't not check out the Jc Whitney ad. I think there's like some sort of an unwritten law that you have to check out the old Jc Whitney ads if you're looking at Old Magazines. So, next ad we've got, and there again, more performance-based ads in this magazine. Only this time, not from one you would expect. Obviously, we've seen Chevy, we've seen Buick, we've seen Mopar, we've seen Ford, all with performance-based ads. Here's one we hadn't seen. How to pick a new 64 Rambler just for the sport of it. Yep, even Rambler had a performance-based ad in this issue of Motor Trend. Choose one of 7 transmissions. Showed off their V8 engine, bucket seats, tilt steering column, and 64 Rambler styling. So there again, everybody was getting in on that deal in 64. And obviously, as we know now, we're still there again. We're looking at hindsight 20 is 2020. In March of 64, we were just at the beginning of what turned into the full-blown muscle car era. We saw the ad on the GTO that they snuck through and snuck past management to get built. Obviously, we know now the 442's coming. Obviously they had a Super Sport Chevelle with a small block. We know in 65 the Z16 came about. Obviously Ford and Chrysler, we're right at the cusp. And all the ads in this magazine all tie directly to what was happening in Detroit at that exact moment in 1964. Let's see. Chris says there's a 63 409 Wagon coming up at the Raleigh Classic auction. That'd be cool. Are Rambler vehicles collectible or desirable? I'm getting more and more calls for Rambler parts all the time. They have been I've obviously been kind of a forgotten stepchild over the years, but I'm getting a lot more calls for Rambler stuff than I ever did. Burl's got to jump off. That's okay. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you stopping by tonight, Burl. But so I see a comeback for a lot of these Ramblers. They're one of those cars that have been overlooked for years, underappreciated. They did have some cool stuff. I mean, you can look at this, look right here at this 64 Rambler two-door hardtop. Not a bad looking car, decent lines on it. And there again, it's different. And that's something that's pretty cool too, because you're not going to go park next to 17 more of them. And that's what, is what a lot of people want today. They don't want to go park next to the same thing everybody else has. They want different. They want style. They want personality. They want, individuality. And Ramblers are cars that definitely give you that, because there's not a lot of them left. They were almost scorned for years as to who would ever drive a Rambler. But that's Chris says there's a Marlin in the Utica yard. I've got a Marlin in my place too. Marlins are great cars. Love the Marlins. So I do see, a comeback for those. Were Nash is sold at Rambler dealers? I believe so. Yeah, I think when that all came together, I think they were. Yeah, I think. I think that was all kind of tied together to form AMC. So, but there again, it just was interesting to even see Rambler getting in on thick of things. But like I said, when we go back to, this is the March of '64 issue, probably written at the end of January, or maybe even in January, and probably started on in December of '63 even. And we look at what happened in '64 with the muscle car movement, and then we tie all these ads together, and it really paints a picture. And that's what's cool about it, is it paints that picture of what we know was going on, or what we know now happened, and we can kind of see the cusp of it just in this one issue of Motor Trend at that time. So let's see. Couple more ads, and then we'll get into some trivia and talk about the raffle and some new inventory. Stuart Warner gauges, great ad. Once again, black and white, but custom styling where you could order an entire set of matched gauges to replace your stock gauges with some Stuart Warner. Obviously, Stuart Warner, a name brand today and a name brand back then as well for gauges. And, they're, again, cool advertising, cool picture, and real cool, really shows the period of what we're talking about. The next, one more ad I got to show you, and I almost didn't do this, but I got such a kick out of it that I decided I had to show it. And believe it or not, it's available from Jc Whitney. Shockingly, I know. The Economizer cuts gas bills up to 25% for a mere investment of $7.95. The Economizer fuel pressure regulator saves the average motorist $40 to $50 every 3 months. The Economizer is guaranteed to give you smoother, faster acceleration to make your engine idle more efficiently, more economically, and it aids in giving your car fast starting power that lets you flash away from traffic, climb steep hills with the greatest of ease. The Economizer eliminates excess pressure on the carburetor, takes out gas-wasting surge, prevents stalling, vapor lock, flooding, as you probably have experienced on hot days. When your carburetor floods your engine with too much gas, your car stalls. Now drive secure with your Economizer. It will control the gas flow so your car never needs to stop again due to vapor lock or flooding. So, and I'm sitting here thinking about this, and they're basically calling it a fuel pressure regulator. But back then, basically everything was a mechanical pump, which didn't exactly put a ton of pressure out anyway. So I thought that was kind of interesting that, a fuel pressure regulator would save the day from your 8-pound mechanical fuel pump. So thought that was kind of neat. But once again, available from the Jc Whitney Company for a mere $7.95. So thought that was kind of neat too. Let's see. Old school. Watch some videos from Australia and New Zealand. They've got some really cool variants of American car brands in the 60s and 70s. Yeah, and they do. I remember I've seen some of that stuff as well. Chris, Rambler started in 1950, sold at Nash dealers. Nash was dropped after 57, and then they were just Ramblers. So that does make sense. That kind of, from what I remember, all ties together and kind of fits with some of the cars I've got in stock at the yard too. So anyway, that's what I had for the March of 64 issue of Motor Trend. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Love looking back in time. Love putting the pieces together and painting a picture in our heads of what was going on in the car world back at these different times. All right, time for trivia. Time to talk about the raffle. Time to talk about some new inventory. Let's get going with the raffle. With trivia. This is an easy one. I'm sure somebody's going to get it. Tonight, we're going to give away another can from our friend Mike Shook at Auto Artistry in Russell, Kansas. This is a different can. It is a cardboard round can, and it is an off-brand, and that's why I love it. This is a can of Howard's automatic transmission fluid. I thought this was so great. It says Dextron 2 automatic transmission fluid. Still has a Howard's price tag on the top of it. And it looks like this quart cost 97 cents when this was new. I assume that this had to have been a house brand because the price label actually looks like Howard's. I don't remember any Howard's department stores in my area, but apparently they were somewhere, Howard something, whether it was a parts store chain or a big box store or whatever they were at the time. But I've never seen this can. Like I said, it is cardboard, but I'm absolutely not opposed to cardboard at all. Just for the simple fact that they're going to be way harder to find. Got Mike's card on the bottom there from Auto Artistry, so we all know where it came from. But I thought it was so cool because it is different. It's a kind of an emerald green. Got some of the details on the back of it as well. So tonight's winner is going to get the Howard's automatic transmission fluid can. Definitely an off-breed, definitely something different, and not one you're going to see on a real regular basis. Pretty simple question tonight. I picked up a 63 Impala last week. Basic four-door car, but a lot of good pieces on it. It did have one notable option on it. What was that notable option? I'll be watching both formats for the correct answer. The first correct answer that I see that the system feeds me will be our winner tonight. So let's get into the raffle as I keep an eye out for the correct answer on trivia to get somebody an oil can. And yes, you're right, Kevin. It is shiny as well. It is a bright, shiny green. That's right, Chris. I'd forgotten about that. Jc Whitney also sold magnets to place on your fuel line, which claim to save gas. I have heard about that. Dan got it. It had power steering. Dan is our winner tonight. When we get done tonight, Dan, give me a shout. Mick guessed air, but that car did not have factory air. It just had power steering. So Dan is our man tonight. So time for the raffle tonight, or not tonight, but next Sunday night, we're going to give this stuff away. Super cool stuff. The stuff from the Auburn Court Duesenberg, our good friend Doug Prey and his crew down there. These are brand new Auburn parts directly from the factory. Remember, we've talked about their story where they bought all of the Newell stock inventory in 1960 from the Auburn Court Duesenberg company, moved it to Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. These are Newell stock inventory out of their stock. So these are great pieces. Old School says he got CRS disease. He can't remember anything. So small Auburn hubcaps, grease caps, however you want to call them. Kind of got some wrinkle pattern there. It's got the shield on it. Once again, brand new cap, clean threads. This other cap, there again, been laying around for a long time. A few scuffs and scratches from years of inventory, of years of being on the shelf. But once again, brand new cap. Threads are clean, never been used. Super cool piece. And the last piece that the winner is going to get is this brand new, never stamped, Newell stock, original Auburn ID tag. These were basically the VIN tags for Auburns. There were a few left over. Doug sent us one of these that the winner is going to get. So whoever we draw next week, Sunday night, I'm going to ship these three pieces to them. So the ID tag and both caps will all go to the winner of the raffle. Now, like we've talked about in the past, $1 per chance. Every $1 you send in, whether it's PayPal or if you send me a check, money order, you can send cash if you want. I just can't guarantee it's going to get here, but I have had a few of you send me cash as well. I will send those out to the winners. Every dollar you send me puts your name into the Big Buick oil can one time. So got it emptied out from last time, getting ready for this one for next Sunday. Every dollar you want in there is going to put your name in there one time to win the Auburn pieces. We don't have a ton of people in yet. Chances are looking really good. But I will go through the names. If you have signed up or sent me money for the raffle and I do not read your name off, you need to get a hold of me and try to figure out what happened, whether it was a PayPal issue, whether it's lost in the mail, something like that. Scott Andrews is in. Mike Shook is in. Stan Brown is in. And Jason Withrow is in. That's all we've got in right now. So my PayPal address is in the text when we get off of here. Those notes are in there. You can PayPal me. Make sure you put in that it is for the raffle. And make sure to put some contact info in there as well. Old School says he's ready to get in, so be sure to get in tonight. If you want to mail it, please get it in sooner rather than later, because obviously if you're going to mail it, it's going to take a few days to get here. If you do put it in the mail and it does not get here until after next Sunday, I will just automatically add that in for the next month's raffle, which will be announced next Sunday night after we give away the Auburn pieces that our good friend Doug was kind enough to work with us on and make us a deal on them so that we could pass those on to you. So exciting time next Sunday night. We're going to give those pieces away and going to get those on the way too. Ironhead says he keeps forgetting. So Dan says his is in the mail. So I will be keeping an eye out for that. Like I said, just make sure you put a note on there or something that says raffle or something so that I know what it's for. And like I said, contact info at the bare minimum, an email, but a phone number and even your address in case you did win would help as well. So make sure you got something on there so I know what it's for. Old School, that is correct. CSE3@cox.net is the PayPal address, and that is in the description for this live on both formats, both YouTube and Facebook. So after we bail off, my email address is listed in the text for this video. So don't miss it. They're super cool pieces. I did buy all of them when I was there for my collection, and I'm so excited that Doug worked with me to be able to pass some of them on to one of you guys. So really excited about it. And it's just great pieces of history, just awesome pieces of history. Definitely a conversation piece. Put them in your man cave. You're probably the only one that has them in your area. So neat stuff. New inventory. What came in this week? Had a few things come in this week. My buddy Mike was in town. He brought me 2 of them. So super excited that he threw those on when he was coming through. 1954 Plymouth Belvedere, 4-door, no motor or tranny, but otherwise a pretty complete car. You know, not the most desirable car in the world, but also something you don't see very often. And the guys that have those cars, sometimes kind of tough to find stuff. So like I said, other than motor and tranny, pretty much complete car, a lot of good stuff left on it. The other one he brought me is another super cool piece. 1956 Lincoln Premier, really neat car. Of course, it's a Lincoln, so it's loaded up with options, but, you know, power windows, power steering, power brakes, factory air, like we talked about, the trunk-mounted air unit in the 56 Lincoln. Shot a couple videos on those cars yesterday. We'll be bringing those to you soon. And picked up one other thing this week. I did get a 1963 Chevy C20 quarter-ton 63 Chevy custom cab pickup that actually was a chassis cab, and it's got a little tiny bed on it. It was a flat bed. I say little tiny by comparison. You know, it's an 8-foot bed, but it has little short sides that are probably 2 foot tall. They go all the way around this flat bed, and I've got all the original panels for it to go around the bed, and they literally used this truck to haul wheat. And the guy that I got it from said, you know, his dad bought the truck brand new. Been in the family since it was new. It's been sitting for a long time. They've pulled the motor out of it. So, you know, it's not complete. The truck is basically complete, but the engine is out of it. Old School's in. We're glad you're in, Old School. We'll get you printed off. We'll get you added to the list. and get your name into the big Buick can for next week. But a neat pickup. All the custom cab trim is still there. Just weird when you look at a 3/4 ton pickup with an 8-foot bed and 2-foot sideboards or whatever, and to think that's what they, you see farmers today, and it's all semis, move as much grain as possible, as fast as possible. And, they were literally hauling wheat with a 3/4 ton pickup with an 8-foot flatbed and 2-foot sideboards. Literally had a slide door on the back, slide it up to pour the wheat out. Back in the day, Joe's already ready to see it. I'll get a video on it soon, Joe. It may be a week or two, but we will definitely get a video up on it in the near future. So much new inventory coming in. It's getting tough to keep videos out there or to get to feed them. Unless I just start feeding them constantly, but I don't want to overwhelm everybody either. So but we'll definitely get a video done on it. Neat pickup. Just there again, when you look back at what they did in the 60s versus what we do today, and you got to remember back then, elevators actually had like a ramp or sometimes a winch. They would literally hook to the front of the truck and tilt the truck up. I've heard of it both ways. There would be a where you would literally pull in like a hydraulic cylinder would raise the front of the truck. And I've also heard like a winch where they would hook it to the front bumper and raise the front of the truck to let the wheat pour out the back or whatever grain they happen to be hauling. Joe says he's a 60 to 66 Chevy truck guy. So this is one of those that's kind of different. The flatbed, it's got a big custom built part to the back where it comes down in the back to a hitch. And it looks like they used a 60 to 66 Chevy front bumper for a rear bumper as they integrated this hitch that they built into the flatbed. Neat truck. So we'll definitely get you a video on that. Hopefully have it up here in the air in a week or two. But it's a neat old truck. So got that picked up as well. Speaking of videos, what's coming out this week? Like I said, I've got a bunch of stuff shot. We shot the Lincoln. We shot the Plymouth. The Edsel that we pulled out of the barn with a big Caterpillar. It's got a few rains on it now, so we can kind of see it a little bit better. There still can't see. I got some of the stuff pulled out of the inside of it. Still got to get the hood open on it, which I'm sure it's packed full because of the way the inside of the car is packed from the animals that turned it into a condo over the years. So we're old school. We're old Bumperjacks banned because they fell on people. That I'm not sure. Old school. I don't know if they were actually banned or if they just made better designs. But so that I don't know whether they banned them for falling on people or not. But it's possible. So Mike says lifts. Yeah, lifts to lift the front of them trucks up to dump the grain out of them. So that's what this little 63 Chevy was set up to do. But anyway, so I shot a video on the Edsel. We got a good walk around on it. And the 79 F-150 that I picked up last Sunday, got a video shot on that. So got that one ready to come out too. Plus some more stuff from the Auburn Cord Duesenberg Company. Got to get the video up for Friday night onto YouTube yet. Great video with our friend Felix from the Auburn with it. We shot with Felix when we were at the Auburn Cord Duesenberg Company. Felix was actually directly involved with the development of the Glen Prairie cord in the early 60s. So he spent a little time with us, and he actually had one there he was working on for another guy, and spent a little time with us and showed us some of the stuff they ran into while they were engineering and developing that car. And literally it's a from the horse's mouth story from the guy that was there when the car was developed. So really cool deal. And I just don't want to put it up, with a really poor quality video, which is what it's doing. So I'm still working on that. So if anybody's got any ideas on how I can get a better download, I'm all ears because I've been fighting it. I can't get anywhere. Do I watch Dennis Collins' channel in Texas? Not much. I see him on Gas Monkey Garage sometimes, but of course I don't even really watch that. I don't watch a lot of TV, so I'm usually down here still working. CB Plum, Marquette, Kansas had a cable lift for grain trucks. Yep. So that's there again. That's what I've heard stories of both, but that's literally how they did them. And it was whatever worked, pickups, grain trucks, whatever they had to do to haul grain. But when you look at in today's world where you go past the elevator during harvest and there's just row after row of semis because of the efficiency of using them, and then you look back 50, 60 years to literally using pickups to haul grain into the elevator. So anyway, that's pretty much what I've got for tonight. keep an eye out for a few more seconds on any other comments or questions that we'll sure try to get to. But that's about all I had for this evening. Glad you guys stopped by. Appreciate you hanging out for a while. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you had a good time. I did, as always. We have a ton of fun on here, but it's because of you guys. It's because of your interaction. That's what makes this what it is. It darn sure isn't me sitting here talking to a computer. It's everybody's interaction. That's why it's a chat. It's a discussion, and that's what makes it fun. So anyway, that's what I've got for you. We will get Dan, give me a call after we get done, or give me a shout tomorrow sometime, and I'll get this can on the way to you. Be sure to get into your chances in for the raffle for next week. Super cool pieces, and somebody's going to win. Old School says I should interview my dad. It'd be good to hear his stories. I don't know if he usually isn't too excited about it. He does help me film some stuff, but that's a good idea. Maybe we can get him to do some stuff. Old School. We'll see if he'll sit down and talk with us some night. Robert, thanks. Appreciate the support there. Appreciate everybody's support. You guys are telling me I'm doing a great job, but it's not me. It's everybody else. Joe says he'll be back next week. Don't forget the video of the truck. So it'll probably be next week before I get it up. Jokes, I don't have it shot yet, and I've got all these other ones shot, but I will get it. Kevin says that a recent sign. It's one that I've had stacked back in the corner. It is a tin sign. It is a fairly heavy tin sign. I think it's about 50 years old. I'm guessing it's probably early 70s, but it is new old stock. So that's why it looks so good. It looks brand new because it's a new old stock sign. Big A was a Midwestern chain. They of parts stores. They were very common around here. There was actually a distribution center right here in Great Bend. My dad was a factory rep for them for Standard Motor Products, covered Big A parts stores, and literally the warehouse was right behind where I grew up. So we used to ride our bicycles around their lot over there. They had a big, huge concrete lot we could ride bicycles on. So that's where that's just one I happened to find. It was buried back in a corner. I like it. Good looking sign. Obviously, Big A. I remember, a lot of you guys probably don't, depending on where you're at in the world. But Big A went belly up a little over 20 years ago, right in the late 90s, right around 99. Big A went belly up, did a bunch of acquisitions, got overextended, and they went belly up. So they've been out of business for a little over 20 years. But based on the age of this sign and the heaviness of the tin, I think it's an early 70s era sign is what I'm guessing. It just happens to be new old stock. So glad you liked it, Kevin. What else we got coming up? Tim learned a few things this week. That's the whole point. Mick says he's having fun. Loves Sunday nights. Glad you guys made it. And like I said, it's definitely not me. It is all of you guys. And there again, we're all learning stuff because of the interaction, not because of what I'm doing, but because of everybody that's on here that participates, that gets involved. And that's what makes it work. Old School says to see you next week. And like I always tell you guys, I really appreciate the support. I really appreciate the comments. I just don't always get, there's no way to respond to all of them between Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and everything like that. But I do appreciate them. Sometimes I do catch them, sometimes not always. And they are definitely appreciated. It makes me want to keep going and working harder to try to do a better job for you guys. So it's definitely great that you guys do appreciate it. Thanks to you, Kevin, as well on Facebook. So lots of fun. Hope to see some of you at the Lawrence Swap Meet next week. Like I said, if you do, be sure to say hi. What time do I come online? 7 o'clock Central Time on Sunday nights. And then Tuesday nights, I will go on at 7 o'clock. We're Toy Tuesday, where we will either do some toys or memorabilia. Sometimes it's toy cars, sometimes it's gas and oil, sometimes it's cans, sometimes it's signs. It can be any sort of memorabilia pieces at 7 o'clock on Tuesday. And then I post videos on cars Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But this live goes on at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time every Sunday evening. So Glenn says the best part of his week. Well, I appreciate it, Glenn. It's like I said, it's you guys coming on here is what makes it happen. So hope to see you back next week, CB. Hope you enjoyed it. I am planning on going to Lawrence. So I do plan to be there unless something else completely changes this week. But I do plan on going to the Lawrence Swap Meet. And like I said, maybe we'll run into some of you guys there and get a chance to say hi. So hopefully I'll find some cool stuff there anyway and see what we can come up with because I'm running short. No, I'm not exactly running short on parts. I don't need to go anywhere to buy anything, but you still got to go. It's a swap meet. You got to go check it out. You never know what you're going to find, so you got to go check it out. So that's my plans, is to go, and hopefully we'll run into some of you guys there. And like I said, definitely say hi if you do, and if you do see me, so I can get to meet you and chat a little bit. So that's what I've got. Looks like we're about done. Comments, nothing else is feeding at this point. So we will go ahead and call it a night. And am I going to the Hutch swap meet? I am planning on going to the Hutch swap meet as well in May. So usually try to catch that one too. So that stuff is coming up that I am planning on getting to. So there again, you guys see me in any of those deals, be sure to say hi. Be great to actually meet some of you in person. So anyway, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I know you guys got stuff to do. I know I got stuff to do. As always, it means so much to you guys. Keep coming back. You jump on here Sunday night. We have a great time, and we get to talk about what we love: old cars, old trucks, memorabilia, automobile, the stories, and that's what makes it fun. So, huge shout out to all of you that make this happen. Glad you're on. Glad you take time out of your evening to hang out with me, and I'm glad that you take that time, because that's what makes this thing work, and that's what makes it happen. So. Thanks for being here, everybody. Really appreciate you watching. Stay tuned. Like I said, hope to see some of you maybe Tuesday night on Toy Tuesday. Maybe see some of you at the Lawrence Swap Meet this weekend. And be sure to stay tuned for the videos coming up this week on new inventory. So thanks for watching, everybody. Hope to see you Tuesday night. If not, may see some of you at Lawrence. And if not, definitely see you back here next Sunday night, 7 o'clock for Sunday Night Live Chat. We're going to give that Auburn stuff away. Somebody's going to win it, and we're going to announce the new raffle. So stay tuned. Can't wait for next week. It's going to be fun. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we will see you then.